What is up, YouTube? Colin Kinney here, back with another video, and today I'm going to be telling you guys why your modified car is a money pit. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to thank everybody for all the support that they've been giving me. I really appreciate every single comment, every single subscriber, every single like. That does mean the world to me. But we'll get right into the video. Make sure y'all like and subscribe if you like this content, if you like BMWs, if you like Subarus. You can't see the Subaru, it's right beside me. But without further ado, let's get into why your modified car is a money pit.
Here comes the money!
So, every good money pit does have a story. This is my 2013 Subaru WRX. I bought this car with 115,000 miles on it. Drove it to about 130. I blew the engine up because I didn't modify it correctly. I didn't tune it, is what I should say. You do have to tune these Subarus for every little modification you do because they hate modifications, but once you get it tuned and it's running great, they love it. Some honorable mentions that I did want to go into though, as other cars that I wouldn't really recommend modding, are BMW N54s. This is going to be a really touchy subject. I have an N55. I promise I'm not like one of those people who hates on the N54. If you don't have the money to modify an N54, please don't. Because those engines require so much maintenance. They're just very high maintenance engines. Think of it as a high maintenance girl. If you don't want to put in all that work, is she going to stay? No. So think of that engine just like that. If you don't change the oil, that engine will probably blow up within like the first 500 miles of it being over how much time it needed to be to change the oil. The second honorable mention on this list is going to be the Volkswagen Golf GTI. I'm not talking about the TSI. As far as I know, those are pretty slow. You can comment down below if I'm wrong. I really don't know too much about the Volkswagens. But the Volkswagen Golf R is a great car to modify. That engine is super strong from what I've heard. It can take quite a bit of horsepower, like kind of north of 500 horsepower, so would definitely recommend that. But what's the problem with the GTI? Well, the problem with the GTI, from my experience, I never owned one. I have 3 buddies who own GTIs though. Lies in the injectors. The injectors will work great until they don't work great. You will just be driving down the road. You won't get any gas to a cylinder. You'll get a misfire. If you don't catch that fast enough, your engine will blow up. Volkswagen guys, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I've seen 2 of the 3 Volkswagen owners I know have this issue, and it almost costed them an engine. But how come when you're modding a car, they become a money pit? This doesn't actually go for every car. There's a lot of cars that you can push high horsepower in and have still a reliable car. You could get a Corvette, a Hellcat, or a Scat Pack. Kind of iffy there though. I know the Scat Packs also have the same cam issue as the 5.7 to a degree. I wouldn't recommend modding a 5.7. It's kind of, I hate to tell you guys, it's kind of the bitch engine if you do get like a Mopar, but I don't hate anybody who has the 5.7, obviously. I'm just kind of joking around here, but I would recommend 6.4 liter, 6.2 liter, the Hellcat engine, wonderful engines. Any Audi engine will take power great. They will be absolutely insane with a downpipe, not even a downpipe. You could tune the car. I know the S5 makes 415 horsepower completely stock if you tune it, but they do have their downsides. Audi has a huge ringland issue, so you could just be driving down the road. Your engine could get just a wee bit too hot, oil could get somewhere where it's not supposed to be, and you could blow out a ringland, which you're not really coming back from that. So that's why every single car in its own way is very expensive to modify, besides for some kind of give or take cars like a Corvette. The LSs take power great. You can supercharge them, 900 horsepower all day, no issues. But why do smaller engine cars have such a hard time taking modifications? It simply comes down to the displacement of the engine, the bore size. It comes to a lot of factors inside of the engine. A lot more than my brain knows, like, how they work exactly. So I can't go into too much detail on that because I'm not a certified mechanic. I'm not a mechanic. I work at a factory now, so I'm going to be honest, I don't know, like, a crazy amount about engines. I know enough to get the work done that I need to get done, and I know enough to make power and tune. It simply comes down to the engine size, how the engine was designed, and really, like, underlying issues with the engine, like ringlands, pistons, and the block are terrible problems with the Subaru. But instead of Subaru fixing it, they kept making the car, because obviously this car was making them a lot of money. Like, this is not the only I don't know the model of this Subaru, to be honest, but this is not the only 2013 WRX on the road. I'm sure you guys see these things every day. They're driven by delinquents. The only difference with this one is it's kind of modified, to a degree. It makes a good amount of power. It actually can race some pretty respectable cars and win. I beat a Scat Pack. That's probably my favorite achievement. I raced my buddy's S5. I also beat that. That was a great achievement, which really feels good when you're driving your build and you beat some faster cars that should be a lot faster than a little rinky-dinky Subaru. Another big factor that comes into modification is the cost of the parts you're putting on. for the most part. A lot of like downpipes, exhausts, you could get on Temu, AliExpress, anything like that. They're probably what's getting dropshipped from the actual manufacturer, unless you're getting a more professionally made exhaust or like a Valvetronic. Cars use air, fuel, and spark. There's not like very much more than that a car actually needs, besides for fluids and things. But the basic way it runs is air, fuel, and spark. I want everybody to remember that so that they can tell it to their family member, their teacher, their friend, whoever you want to tell it to. So first, the intake. That takes the air into the car. And then once the air gets into the chamber of the engine, or gets into the compression chamber, whatever you would want to call it. I'm not a mechanic once again, so I don't know all the proper terms or anything like that. But after that, you have fuel that is also dumped in, mixing into the air. The perfect ratio would be 14.7 to 1. So you want 14.7, we'll call them airs, to 1 fuels. Or however you guys want to differentiate that. But basically, what that means is you want this ratio of air to fuel. So you want this much air going into the engine followed by this much fuel, because then when that spark happens inside of the engine, it is having the perfect spark, the spark that the engine was designed to have. But if you have a bad spark plug, your engine's not going to spark, which means it's not going to fire, which means you're going to be just dumping gas into the cylinder essentially, eventually flooding the cylinder if you don't catch it in time. Another issue is too much air. This is what we call a lean engine, which means the engine isn't getting enough fuel, which in turn could put a hole in the side of your block. And then we have a rich engine, which also in turn could put a hole in the side of your block. And why would more fuel be bad? I'm sure a lot of you are like wondering. If you put more fuel into a car, you're having a larger explosion, which means this won't be caused by the piston smacking the side of like the block. This will be caused by that sheer explosion inside of the engine detonating itself hard enough that it blows the block up essentially. So, if you guys are modifying your car, this is a Subaru engine, so don't look at it like it's going to be your engine. I'm sure you modify your engine differently. But the first thing most people do is an intake, which they're great. They sound cool, especially if you have a turboed car. If you don't, you can still hear the breathing of the engine. And I'm sure you're thinking, why would nobody want that? It makes your car sound a little bit cooler. Well, the issue when you put on an intake is that if the car isn't tuned for it, especially Subarus, a lot of 4-cylinders do this as a matter of fact, they get too much air in the engine because you have a new intake on the car, which changes the fuel ratio. If you have a BMW, I'll get over to the BMW in a little bit and explain a different type of car to modify. But if you have too much air going into the engine, we just discussed what happens. Your engine runs lean, which is terrible for the engine, and your car's not going to run very long. So, to combat this, you have to get something called a tune, which is a flash to the ECU or a piggyback unit. Talking about the BMW, you guys can kind of see it over there, which I am going to get MHG for that pretty soon. My buddy put me onto it, and also somebody in the comments commented about it. So be sure to comment if you have any recommendations about modifying my cars. So if you're tuning a car, say you're tuning this Subaru for example, and you want more boost, you're going to have to add more fuel and you're going to have to add more air into that mix, because this needs to intake more air to go down here, to go into my turbo so that my turbo can spool up harder and faster. But then that also needs to be combated with more fuel, which is why I have an upgraded fuel system, because without more fuel, you're going to be running lean, or you're not going to be hitting your full potential with all of your modifications. Second thing, when you're trying to push more boost out of what I would call a money pit, is an intercooler, because you want the coldest air you can possibly get coming into this engine to come into this engine. Now this intercooler was actually fabricated by my buddy. Absolutely beautiful intercooler. This is a little bit rusty. Don't mind that. I do need a new radiator soon. I did end up blowing my radiator not too long ago. But basically, moral to the intercooler, if it's a boosted car, you want the coldest possible air coming in the engine. This actually does go for any engine, but boosted in particular, because that helps you hit the higher boost numbers without overheating. The next stop you're going to need to make, if you're trying to make more boost out of your smaller engine, 4-cylinder, whatever it is, turbo car, is going to be a bypass valve, blow-off valve, or you can block this off and you can have the sound, which is terrible for your turbo. Please don't do it, especially if it makes a sound while you're spooling up. But what does this do exactly? Well, this essentially pushes the excess air from my engine back into here to be recirculated to spool the turbo harder. A blow-off valve, on the other hand, this is a bypass valve, by the way. A blow-off valve, on the other hand, would blow the air out, because you don't want that excess air when you have a certain car that would run a blow-off valve. But now, you just spent all this money and you look and you're seeing your boost numbers almost exactly the same. You're tuned and everything. How can you fix that? Well then, you're going to need a downpipe and a modified exhaust. And what does the downpipe and modified exhaust do? that allows freer flowing air to go out of the back of the car. It reduces back pressure, which in turn allows your car to push more air out, which allows the turbo to have more air go into it, which allows the turbo to spool faster and allows it to spool harder. But then, with all these power modifications, your engine is probably like a ticking time bomb at this point. So what do you have to do to fix that? Then you're gonna have to start doing inner modifications, because there's only so many modifications you can do on the outside safely. You're gonna have to start getting forged pistons, whatever issues your car has with it. So on the other end of the spectrum, we have cars that you can modify and they don't become complete money pits because they take power a lot easier because it's a larger engine, it's a more reliable engine, it's a better built engine. There's many factors that play into this. This BMW, for example, is the N55 electronic wastegate. The pneumatic wastegate, if I did have that one, I'm not hating on it by any means, does have issues with the pistons because the pistons aren't forged, so the pistons are known for cracking, which is the end of the engine. You can't drive with a cracked piston, the engine will not function anymore. Or on the other end of the spectrum, I talked about the BMW N54. I'm not an N54 hater. They're great engines. It's one of the best designed engines ever in my opinion. But you need to have money to modify it. Like, you need to have a lot of money to keep repairing this engine, doing the maintenance. If we step to the engine bay of my N55 turboed car, what's the difference? Why is this engine so much better? Well, it really comes down to, like I said, the displacement of the engine, the bore of the engine, the materials the engine are made out of, and the designer of the engine. The designer of the engine knows exactly how much power this engine can push, because they probably blew up so many of them designing this perfect tune for this car to run off of from the factory. If we hop under the hood of the BMW, you can see we don't have that many modifications. We have this intake right here, which isn't even a full intake. It's just a CTS turbo adapter so you can run an intake up here. We have a charge pipe, by the way, boost pipe and inlet pipe are on the way, so the boost leak will be fixed, thankfully. I'm very excited for that. I barely put any money into it. This intake, probably 50, 60 bucks. Wasn't that expensive. Charge pipe, probably like 90 to 120, so not very much money. JB4, probably about 400 or 500. Literally not as much money at all. This car is at 360 horsepower, roughly. I haven't gotten it on a dyno yet, so don't quote me on that. The car runs great, it loves the boost, and it runs perfect all the time. It's barely like crazy tuned yet because I can't really push that higher power without more mods. I do have a downpipe. I'm gonna try to get that on in the next video. So, why is this BMW I put $200 in better than that Subaru that I put an arm and a leg into? Well, it comes down simply to the displacement of the engine, the designer of the engine, and the materials used when the engine was being made. I do hope y'all enjoyed today's video, and I hope you learned something new, especially if you're like first getting into cars, because if you are, comment down below. I'll totally be happy to help. I respond to every comment. Really trying to take this YouTube stuff seriously. Probably gonna do some fun stuff with the BMW in the near future. I got that charge pipe and that boost pipe on the way. Pardon me, not charge pipe. Inlet pipe on the way. And then the Subaru, I kind of like it where it stands right now, but I need to fix the bumper and clean it up a little bit because the car is very dirty. It's covered in those red things that fall from the tree right above me. As always, make sure you guys like, subscribe if you did enjoy the video. If you didn't, comment down below on what I could do better. I wasn't throwing any hate in this video, trying to like make anybody upset. I just wanted to help people out, kind of understand and modifying cars and why some cars are money pits. Some cars are a little bit better, but at the end of the day, all cars are simply just money pits to modify, because you'll never get back what you put into them. Without further ado, though, I am going to end today's video. I hope y'all did enjoy. Once again, comment down below, like, subscribe. Just show some support to the channel. It's completely free, and it means the world to me personally. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!